Hello and welcome to the regular Sunday's edition of Wardy's Waffle. Hope everyone's having a decent week. Weather's changing at the minute this weekend, see it's cloudy behind me, and we haven't done any combining yet again because the spring crops, the barley, the oats and the spring beans and the baked beans aren't ready yet, or the navy beans that will make baked beans aren't ready yet. Anyway, this week's update, you can see Tom behind with the solar and press. We'll take another look at that. And we'll go in the cab and have a look at some of the fuel figures and how Tom's got some of the technology and electronics set up. We are also one or two jobs around the farm. Also, I've got an electronic sheep is on the new lawn. I've had a job to keep pace with cutting the grass, so I've got something of interest that you'll see in this update as well. And that will be it for now, so we'll see you towards the end of the video. I can't think I've got anything else on this video, but I hope you enjoy it and we'll see you at the end. Farrels have turned up today in force, but not for the RX, it's to fit the robotic mower that we're having for the grass. So this is the unit. We're just putting a pole up because apparently this receiver needs to have line of sight for the mower at all times to get it accurate. So the only way is to put a pole up across there and put this on the top of it. Here is the mower, and that's the docking station, charging station. We're going to put that in that corner. I haven't quite got this area finished off yet because there's an air conditioning condenser unit going here, so we're going to put that there. So we're just going to try and push that pole in the ground a little bit. That's going, that's it. We're just putting the receiver up on the pole now. Just setting this mower up. Nala's taken a very keen interest in it, which is going to be interesting when it works properly.
Move it like wishy-washy.
Yeah.
Wherever I want, like this.
Yeah.
But as long as my waypoints are defined.
So your corner points that you've mapped.
Corner points or what I'm doing, because it's such a long straight, I'll do sort of like waypoints and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it just sort of keeps everything true.
Right, yeah, yeah. Because obviously when I get it, because you're going to have to cut with a hand mower right next to the edge.
Yes, you might need to, otherwise you can adjust and tweak to your heart's content to get it as close as you want, but sometimes it might slip in.
And then if it slips in, and then you've got to come and lift it up and put it back on.
Yeah.
I'm in the bean field that we've got the Hericut beans or navy beans to make baked beans. I've got Fred here, our agronomist, kneeling down. I've got Steve, who also helps us a lot with the trials. We're just looking at these beans, and we've got some very nice big pods. When you look at that...
Yeah, we're looking quite positive at the minute. I mean, obviously these are going potentially for baked beans, so we don't want any staining. We want nice even beans.
Yeah.
As you can see here, these are nice and beautifully white. There's zero staining on those at the minute.
Yeah.
And we think we're probably sort of 10 days to 2 weeks from spraying these off. And what we're thinking of doing now, we're actually going to put a pod sticker on the pods, just because naturally these beans, they pod so low to the floor and they are extremely hard to combine. And what we find with beans, or any sort of beans, you often find a lot of header losses, because at that point the beans are so brittle, that, you know, obviously we get a lot of shattering of the beans as the header goes through.
Thoughts, Steve?
The other thing is, well, my thoughts as well, we saw these last year when we were combining them, they have a natural spring in them. So they tend to, when they are brittle and ready, they tend to flick open quite easily. So I think the addition of that pod stick to be able to make these, or hold these, a little bit more rubbery, a little bit more friable, will be very interesting. Good number of beans in there.
Yeah.
Actually, when we look at it behind it, these are going off quite quickly.
You can just see the amount of pods there are here, which, if I can just get out the shade, there's a lot of pods there.
As I say, look how close these are to the floor.
Yeah.
To get the header under there, so we're going to have to use a Matt Don Draper header to really, get as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
And hopefully scoop underneath.
But there are a lot of pods when you look around, which is really pleasing to see. The companion crop area where these oats are behind us, they're later planted, weren't they? So they're not quite as forward. There's not quite at the right stage yet, or the same stage as those behind us. But these oats have done a bit of good by bringing the beams up.
What we were looking at here, we've precision sown them, so rather than just a conventional drill, these have been precision sown with an Amazon unit to try to see whether actually we can get that plant to bush out a little bit more, whether we can get a few more pods, and certainly the addition of a companion alongside. We've seen it in spring beans, we're just able to lift the pod height up a bit. So that was really what we're looking at here, is pod height, a few more pods, because it's crucial that we get the yield out of these.
Yeah.
To be able to compete with imports, etc., we have to get the yield brought up. At the moment, we're looking at a tonne a hectare, that sort of thing, but we could do with
a hectare or acre.
Tonne an acre.
An acre, so 2.5 a hectare.
2.5 for the hectare. We need that brought up a bit more. So that's essentially what we're looking at in terms of agronomy. We've got detail. We've got the different dates that we've planted these, and certainly I think we're about on target with your the planting around the headland with your crop, Andrew. That's about where we need to be.
Yeah.
So that'll be a mid-September harvest, hopefully, something like that. I've still got some flower stuff in these, so these have got to motor on a bit over the next.
You see the pods in these, they're there. Pods are all forming, and but you can just see by these, they're just not at the same stage as those others. But
so lots of things to come together to make it a success.
yes, and those you've got there, Fred, they're lovely. No blemishes on them whatsoever.
No, it's some promise.
So imagine those with a coat of tomato sauce on, and then putting them on a slice of toast.
There you go.
Perfect. There's a different variety in these trial plots, and this was when was this planted? Was it middle of May? Middle of May. But these beans are for the sort of the baked or the hard bean market, the cooking market, soups and things. They're not for baked beans, and you can see they're nowhere near as ready. These are the pods, a lot taller plants, and they really look like soya beans. Actually, these do. How far off pre-harvest glyphosate are we?
30% moisture content is where we want to be when we're spraying them off.
Yeah.
Which I'd say we're a bit high. We're not quite there yet.
No, we're not there because they are soft. You can see
I've
there.
seen them before. Once they get to this sort of stage, they go off fairly rapidly.
But lovely sample in the pod.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're applying a pod stick here to help the pods help the pods more so they're not so brittle at harvest time. We're putting 300 litres of water per hectare with the product, so putting a lot of water onto what we'd normally do. This is the product we're applying, and you can apply it for oilseed rape, peas, beans, lots of different crops. But when you're looking at these beans and the pods, you can see they're on the floor, some of them. You can see how low to the ground they are. So going to be a challenge, but we've got a McDon header coming at harvest time to go on the combine. Big job on today. Got two vans here. The front one is our electrician, Dave Phillips, and this is the supply that comes into the farm from the main transformer, which is across there. You can just see over the top of the hedge. Got either 200 or 250 kVA transformer there for the whole farm, and we're connecting the house up to the farm supply. So we've had to switch off the whole farm, and here's Dave just coupling up. Thank goodness the cable was long enough. We've actually put the house on 3-phase, haven't we, Dave?
Yeah.
And so what you're doing now?
Just terminating onto the neutral bar. So we've
Underneath there, yeah.
3-phase earth and neutral coming in,
Yeah,
and then 100 amp take off the main buzz bar off that.
yeah.
We'll feed the house, so that'll give you more than enough.
More than enough.
Future-proof.
Yeah, it will for the future. So anyway, if anybody wants an electrician, Dave's your man. Done all our work on the farm here for a few years, only at Lincoln, and his mate. So what was your... Steve, that's right. Steve's helped Dave doing some of the house as well, so it's brilliant. Been wiring all the house up. This is in one of the grain stores. And this is where the whole farm supply comes from, into here. And we've got solar on the shed roof. You can just see at the top there, solar on that roof there and on the other side, which we'll utilise in the house around the farm. We'll probably increase that as well and put more panels up there, and maybe batteries as well. So we'll increase the power, increase the storage for the whole farm and the house that's just around the corner through there. And the cable for this came through this hedge. You saw us putting it in. Some of you follow this a few weeks ago. I'll just go through there. Dug a trench through there, all the way right down to the house. Put the cable into the shed. So that's job sorted. The robot mower's got its lights on. It's 7:45 Friday evening. It's just starting to rain. You can just see through there the mist. So I've just asked it to go back to its house or its charging station. I haven't quite got to grips with the settings of this yet, whether you can stop it cutting in the wet, whether it's got a wet sensor. Yeah, I need to just sort this board out. There we are, it's back in the docking station. I just had to intervene because his board wasn't quite right. Tom's filling up the 8RX with fuel. He's just put in 581 litres. He'll record that. The only probably one complaint we have about this tractor at the minute is that it's not big enough. That's the fuel tank. It holds about 800 litres, which is enough for just over a day's work, which is all right, but when you're farming away from the main base, you've got to take your Bowser to. It'd be better if it's a bit bigger, or if you're having really long days and going into the night, you do need topping up before dark. It's using around about 26 litres a hectare, so it's high 60s, high 67, 65 centilitres an hour, which is a lot less than the quad track. We're doing more acres an hour, but remember we did change operators a couple of years ago. Tom's been with us now 2 years, 3 years. Put a new sight tube on the fuel Bowser as well. See there, we just need to redo these marks on here to say what they are. That should be 2,200 litres. See there, that's 2,800. Just looking at these points with Tom, there's tungsten on these to make them wear better. You can just see there's like a strip that's, I suppose, glued on when they're new. But you can just see how it's wears it the minute it gets off the tungsten, how it's worn it there, worn it all here. And we can see the dip just in there. That just shows the value of tungsten, and they're about 3 times the price of a standard point, but you get a lot more wear out of them, more than 3 times the wear. So these have been on since we got the RX last year. So yeah, interesting when you start to see the wear, how it wears it, with the soil wears it like that when it should be level. Another thing to look at is these discs are really worn. You can see by the back ones what they should be like. They should be cut away like that. And obviously this is what gets you your bite and sticks into the soil and gets you depth, but it soil wears it. So those are like that, but these front ones will soon be completely round. You can see there's a little bit left there. These will need changing this year because it won't sink in as much. You'll have a job. And the reason why these wear more is because these are always in the firm ground at the front of the machine. They're straight into the stubble and the hard ground. So that's why they wear more. Whereas everything further back is that the soil's already been loosened. So that's why these aren't worn anywhere near as much, because these are working in looser soil. You can see how everything follows when you've got 2 or 3 machines like this hitched together. How everything follows the other one. Fairly long outfit going down the road. I think altogether it's about 20, with the quad track it was 26 or 7 metres long. This tractor's a bit shorter, so it's probably going to be 24, 25 metres long altogether. Everything's, all the hydraulics connected right through from the tractor to the machine at the back, the lights, greasing, we've got auto lube on the Solo as well. we'll go and see him working and go in the cab in a few minutes when he gets to the field. As Ruben put a new sight tube on the Bowser, and you just saw a few minutes ago that the gauge or the scale on the sides are not right. I've just got some brake cleaner here, just going to get this cleaned off and remark it while we can still see where the levels are. Just giving it a squirt with brake cleaner, you can see it drying. Always a good way of getting the muck off. Cleans anything up, brake cleaner does. Yeah, that's better now, we can see what's what. Just need to lift this inside lid up and go in there into where the oils are. Oh, it's okay down there. You can see those. Just give it a clean. And there's the various oils and various things that we need when we're out away from the yard. That job done. Put it away now, ready for Tom to use tomorrow. Nala's having a sleep in the shade. It's amazing, she always manages to find the shade under a tractor or near a machine somewhere, wherever I'm doing a job. Little bit of history about this Bowser, this fuel Bowser. It was made, well, my father asked Howsams to make it, so that's Howsams sprayers when they used to be based in the village. But before they started to make sprayers, they were just a village blacksmith, and they used to do a lot of repair work for us. They used to make tractor hose for hoeing vegetable crops and sugar beet. They used to make transport kits for Massey 30 drills, 6-metre Cambridge rolls. Another thing they used to do, quite a lot of, they sold a lot of those, all local farmers had those. So Howsams did a lot of stuff for us, and this was one of the things that my father asked them to make. The unfortunate thing is now it's not legal on the road, so we don't use it there, but we can get to a lot of our land across the fields or without going on the road. It holds 3,000 litres, but it's not double skinned, and that's why it's not legal on the road anymore. And but it's really good for what we want it for around the farm. And it's got a Honda engine on it, so when Howsams made it, and it must be, I would have said probably 40 years ago, maybe now, 35 years ago, somewhere there, when Howsams made it, it was absolutely state of the art. It's got a lorry axle on the back, and one or two people commented that when I put a video up about Ruben towing lifting a compressor on the forklift and going down the lane, why don't we do like normal people do and tow it behind the Bowser? Well, you can't put a drawbar on the back of that because that is just thin skin, and underneath you've got the lorry axle, so you can see why you can't put a drawbar on the back of that. So just amuses me when people criticise without knowing what the reason is. Otherwise, if we could have done it in the past, we would have done it. Soloing's going well. Tom's getting through the fields. This one's not particularly difficult or strong soils. Remember last video I was explaining when farmers say the soils are strong, it means there's a lot of clay or silt content, one or the other, or both. This you can just see is quite nice soil. Mixing all the straw up as well, which helps improve organic matter and also means we don't need to put much phosphate or potash on. There's a lot of fertiliser in straw, so if you incorporate it, it means you don't need to put so much on out of a bag. Combine here's chopped and spread it well, which is good. Also, you remember the last video I said that we were having a job setting the solo up because it was ridging it. It was the width that we got wrong in the machine, and even though the solo's 4.5 metres wide, Tom's had to put in something like 4.2 metres in the screen. That's the width the tractor will drive at to make sure it's level. Whenever you have these width of machines, you never know whether it's the width of the frame, it's the width of the roller, it's the width of the discs or what. So can't use for getting the tape measure out, but just taking time and setting it up. You can see now it is really level on this edge. See along there, all the way along. Tom's just doing the gearings, as we call it. That's the odd shaped bits. We always do it at an angle. If you look there, there's the rows from the drill. We always do everything at an angle to keep the fields level. So I'm with Tom in the cab. We've got the screen there, which we'll look at in a minute. Looking at the view from the seat. You can see it's quite a long rig all the way to the press at the back. see it's nice soil in this field. So Tom, before we get to the end, where's your fuel figures?
Well, that's your average for all the solo in this year.
Oh, all the solar you've done up to date.
Yeah.
Is that's litres per hectare, 26.4 litres hectare, right? So we're just about to turn, and you can see that on the screen there, the circle at the end. Tom's got it set up to do auto turn. There you see it change colour. So the tractor now, see Tom's not holding anything. The tractor turns itself that way. Light bulb effect at the end. It's lifted the solo and all the machine out the ground. We're going back down there. See, it's still on stunt lock. It'll head back across too far. You'll think it'd be too far, but it needs to do because of the length of the machine on the back. There we are. Cut back inside, straighten out, and there you are. You see it's dropping everything in to work. Speed it up. There we go, all done.
So that's this field.
So that's just this field. So what we got?
That's hectares per hour, Hinton an average. So that'd be what you're averaging.
Is that the average? What that's in this field?
Just this field, yeah. Don't do like that much. Fuel per area, Hinton average.
So the litres per hectare is 23.3.
And then that's litres an hour.
Yeah.
Averaging just over 16. Going slightly uphill to 76.
Yeah. So that's average 58.5 litres per
average speed, everything else. And then that's your figures for 111 hectares.
That's this season's solar work. Oh, so you actually average of your 36.3 hours. Ah, yeah.
Working speed, engine times, timing worked. So obviously that won't include you driving to the field and bits and bobs.
No. Current speed. Does the screen? Yeah, that's 9k.
That's your set speed.
Yeah. Oh, that's what you set it at.
That's what it's doing.
Yeah. I'm just about to turn at the end again. You can see on the screen the white line is where it's going to go. That's it. Just come up behind a fertiliser spreader, and some of you will recognise that registration number. It says, if you're imaginative, beeswax. That's one of the Dyson tractors. They farm a lot of land all around us, really. Great to have something like that farming nearby, doing so much for the environment and the farming industry generally. I've just come into Lincoln for this afternoon, and I have seen Lincoln City beat Blackpool. Got a couple of season tickets at the football club, which was great. Just called in local Tesco on the way home, and I'm shocked to see signs all over the place saying prices frozen of over 1,000 products. Yes, I know there is a cost of living crisis and a lot of people are struggling to feed themselves, but what does it cost to put this food on the shelves? And these retailers are just intent on locking prices, which then means when they start to negotiate with the processor that they start at a low level because they are intent on freezing prices of so many products. You can see by the screenshots I've got here all over the store. One of them is potatoes, which there's been a problem with that over the last year's availability, the price of producing potatoes, and I know there's quite a few potato farmers have actually reduced their acreage significantly because they're not making any money out of potatoes because they're not getting paid enough for them. It's absolutely ridiculous that these retailers are intent on reducing prices, and then what happens is we have to import them all from abroad because we can't afford to grow them in this country. Absolutely ludicrous. Thanks very much for watching. We are hopefully going to get into our spring crops next week. Spring barley and spring oats hopefully will be harvested sometime towards the middle end of next week. The spring beans and the navy beans will turn into baked beans. I don't think they'll be ready till the week after that. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.